Hello, everybody. We are getting ready to. Hugo just texted me and said that he's running a minute late. He's going to be sending from his phone. All right. He says he's 10 minutes from his office. Accident, had a freeway shutdown. So Hugo is running a few minutes late. So he's going to be doing his part of the class here in a bit. But what I can do is I'll go into our part of the class and let's just give everybody another couple of minutes to see if Rosanna. Sometimes she doesn't get the email. Okay, I know I see you, Will. Lissa's on the call. Let me just give Austin a minute too. Okay, Austin's saying I have to send him the link. Okay, let me just pause here for a second. I'm going to click out of here. Just a second here. Hello, Rosana. Okay, okay, okay. Sounds, yeah, go ahead and say join the link. Hit the link, join, and then this way they'll let you in. Okay, I'm sending the link to Austin real quick. Okay, bye. Okay, Hugo just got here. Let me just see if I can get um let me see real quick if I can get the link out to Austin real quick. Let's see. Okay, let me copy the link. Zoom link for class. Okay, got it. Now, okay. So right now we have Hugo, I see you, I see Will, Lissa. It looks like Rosanna. I just got off the phone. Rosanna's trying to join with Jose. I wanted them to get this information as well. But in this class, what we're going to be talking about is we're going to be talking about where to get the money to buy the houses. Because most people, that's the biggest question. They don't have the money to buy a house, or when it comes to real estate is quote unquote very expensive. So if they don't know where to get the money, then they can't buy the house. So Hugo is going to be, of course, he's the specialist on where to get the money. So we're going to bring him on here. Now, Hugo, are you still on the way to the office? Or are you able to get on the call and actually chime in? I believe Hugo's still on the way to the office. He said he was 10 minutes out from his office, but he will be chiming in as soon as he
I
gets to
should
the
be able to
office.
chime in. I believe I just unmuted myself. I'm about 5 minutes from getting to the office right now.
Okay, 5 minutes from the office. Okay, so what I'll do then, Hugo, is this: I'll go over your part after. I'll go over some of my part here to start with, and then I'll go over your part after that, so that this way we can give Rosanna and everybody a chance to get on and join into the call.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. So Will, since right now you're the main guy on the call, Austin wasn't able to get on yet, and Rosanna has not been able to get on yet. I want to talk. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you're doing right now. So let's talk about some of the deals. You have a couple of deals on the table. You've already purchased the house on Foxcroft, and you've also purchased another house on Knight Arnold, right?
Nightway,
Nightway, yeah, Nightway and
Fox.
Foxcroft.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now, how is that going with both of those houses? Both the houses you were able to purchase, and right now, the only thing you're having, we're just trying to the transition period we're having with Nightway is the only thing that we're having an issue with. We're just trying to get that house transition over to you and make sure that the property management company that was previously managing the house is able to get the new property management company, which is CB Properties, to be
Mhm.
able to manage the house.
Yeah. I mean, I talked to, as you know, I talked to Brad last week just briefly about it. And um, that's when I reached out to you to follow up with him. So that I just don't know any more on it than you do. With the Foxcroft, that's going along pretty well. They've started remodeling it, and it looks pretty good so far from what I've seen from the pictures that Trevor sent me. So
Okay.
that's starting to move.
Okay. Now, did they already give you the Matterport? Did they give you a connection to the Matterport so you can get in there?
They did, but it's not hooking up. Trevor just sent me some pictures separately, the Podio. So the Podio platform, my name's in there, but it's not showing anything yet.
Got
So
you. Okay.
there's a problem with it, and they're going to look into it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Because Podio, that was when I sent you the Matterport from the house that they did for us. That was through Podio. The whole thing in the Matterport and all that stuff was through Podio. So it'll be nice that they can go in and get this house rehabbed and then get it all ready for you and have it be able to witness and watch it the whole time. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, so that worked out good. Okay. We have a couple of other houses which we're looking at, which we actually have on the docket. So what I'm going to do is while we're waiting for Hugo to get to his office, I'll share my screen and I'm going to show you the houses we have on the docket, and I'm going to show you a different way of two different investment strategies that we have. Okay, so let me see. I'm going to share my screen here first. Okay, let me share it. Okay, and then I'm going to bring this up here. I'm going to bring up Redfin. Okay. And what I'm going to do is
I'm going to show
I'm going to show you the houses which we have under contract. All right. So the first investment strategy is kind of what you did, Will. So I'm going to show you this one. This house is on Wilshire. Let me just find out the exact address. Okay. Wilshire. Okay. 3704 Wilshire Road. Okay. So let me type this in here. 3704 Wilshire Road. Okay. All right. So, first investment strategy, you get a house that is kind of run down a little bit. It has some repairs that are needed, and you're able to put a bit of money into it to do improvements for the house. And you do improvements, and then you're able to get the house for a little bit cheaper. And ultimately, at the end of the day, usually you're going to get a little bit more cash on cash return on your investment. So, this is a house that we have under contract. It's a house on Wilshire Road. The house was listed for 97,500. Okay, we sent our guys to go look at it, and what we told them is we needed $20,000 off that price. So we wanted to get it for 77,500. They came back. They said they could take 10 grand off the price. We said no. I said we can actually do it. So we kind of split it in the middle, and they came with 15,000 off of the price. Okay, so 97,500. We're gonna subtract $15,000 right off the top. All right, so that comes up to a total of $82,500 that you would be paying for this house. Now, when we talk to our lender, the lender will loan the full 97.5. So this way we can try to get our closing costs and everything covered, and also try to get some of our repair costs tied up in that loan. But let me show you what the total amount. It's going to need a new roof. The house is going to need a new roof, and that's probably going to run about $12,000. Okay, so let's add 12,000 to this. Okay, and then it's going to also need some floors and some things. So probably about another $4,000 to $5,000 interior. So if you look and see some of these interior photos, you can see that some of this old wood grain finish on the side is outdated. We would pull that off. You can see the carpet is really old and tattered. We'd pull all the carpet out. We'd replace it with new hardwood floors. You can see we'd probably change out these old light fixtures and put some newer light fixtures in. Of course, we replace these old style curtains with some blinds, and just some little things, some fix-its here. But let's just say the total inside work is going to be another, say, $5,000. So we're going to add 5,000. So we've added 12,000 already. So we're going to add another $5,000 to this. All right. So now you're at a total of $17,000 that we've added to this. So at 82,500, that was the purchase price. Okay, and then we add $17,000 to it. So now we're at $99,500 total, all in $99,500. Now, let's take a look and see what kind of a return on investment we get. So when you want to know what the rent is going to be for this area, it's a nice area. It's kind of by Rhodes College, and if we scroll down here, we can look down and I can show you what the rents would rent for. And down here you can see that the rental earnings for comparable homes is about $1,367 a month. Okay, so let's just take 1350. Okay, we're gonna say we're gonna try for 1350 rent.
Bobby.
Okay, okay, 1350 times 12, and we're at $16,200 for the year. Okay, and then if you divide that by the purchase price, we're at all in 99,500. We're going to be at a total of 16.2 cash on cash return on investment, which is pretty good. That's actually much better than most of these cash on cash returns on investment. So now you can see if you have that kind of a cash on cash return on your investment, you're not really going to go wrong. You should be fine. It should actually be a really good deal for you. But let me show you. This is the investment strategy if you are wanting to actually go in and do some fixes. Okay, now if you didn't want to do the fixes and you wanted something that was kind of turnkey, I'm going to show you another house which we have under contract, and I'm going to show you how you may not be able to get as much cash on cash return on your investment. This is a house on Kimball. So I'm going to say three. Let me go ahead and admit Hugo here. Okay. Three. Just a second. Okay. 3776
Recording in progress.
Kimball.
Hey, Korbie, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure, you can.
On the Wilshire property, what part of town is that in?
That is in 38111. It's going to be that's actually in a really good sought after area. It's in the Rhodes neighborhood, so it's a real nice area. This is also in 38111. This is also in a really sought after part of town. This house is on Kimball. Okay, now if you'll notice, this house they wanted 134,000 for the house. All right, now you can see that the house is already renovated. They've already put in the floors. They put in some nice bathrooms. You can see that this is all done nice, and you can see, if we look at all of the pictures, you can see all of the different. They've painted it already. They've made it look really nice. So this house is already move-in ready. Okay, so this house is one that if you said, "Hey, you know what? I don't want to put any work in this deal. I just want to go ahead and just see if I can just buy the house and be good with it," this would actually be a good deal for you. Now, this is the thing with this house is that when you go to this house, oops, I went too far. Okay, when you go to this house, they wanted 134,000 for the house. Now we were able to talk them down. We said we actually wanted it for 120. They said, no, we can't do 120. The most we can do is 125. So we actually got it under contract for 125,000. Now we're going to do some math again. I want you guys to figure out your cash on cash. So when we go down here and we look at the rents, okay, the rents in the surrounding areas, you see that the rents, comparable rents are about $1,400 a month. Okay, for a house this size based on comparable rents. $1,400 a month. So we're going to do some quick math. I'm going to multiply 1,400. We're going to do that. It gives us a total rental for the year 16,800. If we divide that by the purchase price, which is 125,000, we come up with 13.44 cash on cash. Okay, so 13.44 is not like the first house I showed you guys on Wilshire. Wilshire was that was actually a better deal. It was at 16.44, and this is at 13. So you're getting a better cash on cash return on a house if you're willing to put in a little bit more work. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're looking at your investment strategy. But either
So
one of these two houses would be a decent deal.
another question, Corby. The total price, are you adding in your fee in that already, or is that added on top of it?
That would be added on top of it. So
Okay.
yeah, so for this one right here, this is yeah, we got it down to 125. So we would add our little fee in there, and then
Okay.
at the end of the day, you still make out with a decent return on investment. And sometimes what we do is we'll get them talked down so far. I'll show you another house. Let me show you another house which is we have under contract real quick, and then we'll go to Hugo. Um, Let me show you. This house is one that we got under contract. Okay, it's 1604. Okay, no, this is it. 1357 Salem. Okay, so this is one here. 1357 Salem. Okay, this is another house that we have under contract. Okay, this is another house which they've already done the work for us. Okay, the house is pending at 114.5. We're not going to pay 114,500, but you can see that they've done some work. You can see that the house actually has some nice floors. The exterior has been painted. They've, got the yard looking nice. Everything all around. It's a decent house. It's not a half bad house. And this house is in 38122, which is the Berclair neighborhood. So Berclair it's actually one of the sought after neighborhoods there in Tennessee. Oops, I went too far. So this one they're asking 114.5. We've actually talked to them. We're trying to get it. Ideally, we want to get it at 105. But if you look and see, I want you to see the cash on cash. So we want to look down and see what the houses are renting for in this a comparable sized house, and it's basically $1,200 a month, 1195. So let's do some math real quick. We're going to see what the numbers say. So when I do the math, 1,200 times 12. We're at $14,400 for the year. And if we divide that by 105, we're trying to get the house at 105. We're going to be at 13.7 cash on cash. So again, this isn't half bad, especially because you don't have to do any work. You just kind of walk into this and it's almost like turnkey. You're just going to get somebody in here and going to get them to rent it and you're good to go. So when you can get these kinds of deals, it's always nice. I actually like some of these turnkey deals better. We don't mind doing the rehab, but sometimes the rehab can be a real headache. And that's something which one of my future videos I'll put out is one of the houses which we were trying to rehab, and this house, it dragged on for a year. It was just a nightmare. This is something because trying to find contractors, real good contractors, sometimes is really hard to come by. So that's what I was talking about. So these are different investment strategies you might have. There's the investment strategy where you walk in, you're going to add value to the house, you're going to be able to get a better cash on cash return on your investment by doing that. Otherwise, the other investment strategy would, if you can actually get a house which is already fixed up for you and you can negotiate the price down low enough, you're going to be in a good place. All right. So then we are going to do this now. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn things over to Hugo because I'm going to stop my sharing of the screen and then I'll answer some questions. But like I said, what Hugo is going to answer and the part that Hugo is going to do is Hugo is going to be talking about where you get the money to buy the houses. So there's a few different strategies. Okay, If you didn't have any money at all, the best way to get the money would be wholesaling. And I'll do another video on wholesaling. Wholesaling is what we call driving for dollars. It means that you're going to go find a house which is relatively dilapidated, or you're going to find a distressed owner, and then you're going to essentially you're going to tell that owner, "Hey, I'd like to buy your house. I'd like to pay you X amount of dollars." You negotiate a price on that house, and then you're going to find somebody who wants to buy it, and then you're going to put on your markup, and then you'll be able to, when you're wholesaling, you'll be able to take the difference in the spread. So that's how wholesaling works. But that's a strategy I would use if I had no money. If I came into this and I'm a high school kid and I'm broke completely, and I said, hey, I want to go through and I want to try to get into real estate, I'm going to start wholesaling. But the other ways to do it are hard money. Okay, that's one of the ways when you go through a lender. Traditional lending, and of course HELOCs, BLOCs, and PLOCs. So, Hugo, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, and we're going to talk about that. If you first go into hard money and kind of talk about what the positives and the negatives are about doing a hard money loan.
So, nice to meet you guys. Thank you, Korbie. I know I've talked to some of you in the past, and I think starting off with the hard money loans, right? Typically hard money loans, some lenders they don't care to look at your FICO, others they have cutoffs, but typically the hard money lenders will have about a limit of about 65% total of the property value. That's if you're gonna, purchase it and reno, you're limited to about 65% of the ARV, right? And typically also they don't want to see that the renovation budget is more than the purchase, right? As long as the renovation isn't more than the purchase, finding a loan for that type of property shouldn't be a problem. Uh, it's typically very low doc. They just want to see that you have, it's going to be a business purpose type of loan. So they are going to ask for your LLC documents, right? They're going to want to see a little bit of reserves, and that's about it. That in an ID, right? They don't ask for much. Obviously, they're going to want to see a purchase contract or agreement, and that's about it. They'll do the necessary title work because a lot of people get confused, like, oh, isn't a hard money loan like no doc? Well, we do have to record the purchases and stuff like that, right? They're typically quick to close, anywhere from about a day to a week to fund. So, that is one of their strengths. You don't have to wait for, a bunch of underwriters to go through it. It's typically one person that approves it and says, yes, we can do it, or no, we can't. I think stepping up from there, most people, would ask, what's a fix and flip? It's just another term for the hard money loan that they're financing the purchase and the renovation. But
Let me
they
let me cut in one second, Hugo, so that this way everybody can understand that. So hard money, the reason why we do hard money a lot is because it's quick money. It's like cash. So that's one of the benefits of having hard money. So when you go and you put on, let's say you're putting in a request, or you're putting in a deal and you're trying to purchase a house, and so you've got this deal written up with a realtor. Then when a realtor puts in hard money, it's the same as cash. So they know that this is going to be money that's going to be quick. We can close it really quick and it's right away. Now, one of the problems with hard money is that the interest rates are usually high, right, Hugo?
they're typically high. Most hard money rates are going to be 9.5 and above, right? 9.5 is on a good property. You're, only financing about 30% of it, and you have like a 830 FICO, right? And then from there it goes up. It's not uncommon to see 12 to 14% if it's like a 4 unit or more, So, and the more boxes that you check off, oh, is this a multi-unit? Yes. Is this? Yes. It starts to add on to the rate, usually with hard money.
Got you. Got you. And then what we usually do is when you get a hard money loan, because those of you who have done a deal with Avalon, you know that Avalon is a hard money lender. So that's where if we do a deal and we actually do a hard money loan, I always recommend we want to try to get out into a conventional lending as quickly as possible. So we usually move that into a DSCR, or we call it a debt service ratio loan. So Hugo, if you talk a little bit about the debt service ratio loan and talk about the benefits of that versus hard money, and again, if there's any downside of a DSCR loan, saying if you, let's say for example, you were trying to do what Frank was trying to do, where you haven't already purchased the property and you're trying to go straight DSCR, then they might say, hey, you're going to have to bring a lot more money down to the table.
So yeah, there are some lenders, and like what I tell everybody, typically 20% down on a DSCR is what they're looking for, right? If you're doing a rate and term or a purchase, we have some lenders where we can go to 85% maximum loan to value. But what I try to tell everybody at that, it has to be underwritten where it's still cash flowing on that, right? Typically, it still cash flows on properties about 350 or less on those types of down payments. If you start getting bigger on the purchase or loan amount, that max LTV loan is going to be right neck and neck with what you're generating, right? So typically we want to try to structure it where, at 80% and 85%, you're still making about, what we call the 1.25 DSCR ratio, which means basically you could be out a rent a quarter, a month every quarter, and you'll still generate, enough money to pay it off.
Right. So let me talk a little bit more in layman's terms, because Hugo's been Hugo deals with a lot of bankers and he knows this. So DSCR means debt service ratio. Okay, so debt service ratio, what Hugo's talking about is when he's saying a 1.2 ratio, what he's talking about is that he's saying that the bank is telling you that if you have this house and it's rented, okay, and let's just say you have a house and it's rented for $1,200 per month. Okay, but then the mortgage payment for the house is $1,000 a month. When you do the math, what the lenders are doing is they're dividing the mortgage payment or the rent by the mortgage payment, and if you come up with 1.2 or better, the bank is saying, hey, we're not taking as much risk, we're okay, so we're going to go ahead and do the loan because of the fact that the debt service is covered, it's covered by the rent, so we're fine with that. And that's what we call a DSCR loan. So when you have your house and it's rented, 9 times out of 10 when we're doing these deals, we're doing a DSCR loan, and we're trying to get that deal done so that the rent is going to cover the mortgage, and not only will it cover the mortgage, but it'll actually put a little bit of money in your pocket at the end of the day.
And
Okay.
typically we can finance anything. We can finance up to 8 units. After that, it gets a little picky by the lenders, but anything 1 to 4 will require 20% down. If you're looking at 5+ units, that's when the lenders want a little bit more, about 25 to 30%, depending on your FICO and experience.
Right. And when Hugo's saying that much down, he's talking about when you go to do an initial purchase. If you were trying to purchase a house and you're saying, hey, I'm buying this house, it's rented, and I want to go ahead and I want to purchase the house, then the lender would say, okay, yeah, we can go ahead and do this deal, but just to make sure we mitigate our own risk, we're going to make sure you put up 20% of the money. Now, if we do like we do, which is actually you do a hard money lending and you purchase the house through the hard money lender, you're going to put a lot less money down for the down payment. And then when you refinance out of the deal with the DSCR loan, that's how you're able to pay yourself back. Because when you refinance out of the deal, a DSCR loan, like Hugo's saying, is that they'll finance up to 80% of the loan value. So they say, and when they say 80% of the value, they're talking about the after repair value of the house. So we'll actually have to we'll send an appraiser out there to go and appraise the house, and the appraiser will generally come back and they'll say, okay, this house was I appraised it at $140,000. The after repair value is $140,000. And so the lender will say, okay, we can loan you 80% of the 140, which would be like 110,000. And so then if you had a hard money loan, which, let's say you had a hard money loan with Avalon and you had borrowed $100,000, then you would be able to take that 110,000, you pay Avalon back with 100,000 of that money, and you'll have $10,000 left over to pay yourself back with some of that closing costs. You see, so the closing costs are always going to cost something, but you see, that's where you have to figure all of these things into the deal. You have to figure out, okay, how much money am I going to be looking at closing costs? How much money am I going to be looking at here? And then you'll be able to come out without actually spending much money at all.
Yeah. And then we also have it set up where I have Korbie's preferred appraisers in the areas uh, with my preferred AMC appraisal management company. So
Right.
we always have an ability to make sure that for whatever reason, if the appraisal is not correct, that we can talk to the appraisers and massage it a little bit so we can let land closer to that value that we need.
Right. And that's only for my students, guys. Just so you know, if you try to go and do this another way, sometimes I've had students really have a hard time with appraisers, and it's just like a real big problem because if you get an appraiser that is, they're appraising the house very low, you can end up bringing a lot of money to closing. So I'll give you a quick example. If you were, let's just say, for example, you bought a house, okay, you got a house relatively cheap, a 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom house, and you spent $75,000 for the house. Okay, let's just say that's all in. Let's say you had repairs, everything. It was $75,000. House is rented for $1,100 a month. Great. Now, you go through. You've got this hard money loan with Avalon, and you're paying $750 a month with the hard money loan because they're at 12%. And you say, okay, no problem. Everything's good. Everything's good. I'm getting $1,100 a month. It's great. Now you go to refinance. All right, you go to refinance the house, and we have to get an appraiser in there to go into the house and check and see what they think the after repair value of the house is. Now we've had it happen before and we have a whole list of appraisers which are terrible that you don't want to use. You always just ask for that to be reassigned. Where an appraiser will come in and they'll see this $75,000 house. They'll see that you paid $75,000 for the house, and so they, instead of looking at what the neighborhood houses have sold for, they're kind of in a mindset that they think, well, he only paid 75,000 for the house, and he didn't do that many value adds, so we're going to value this house at 85,000. So the appraisal comes back at 85,000. Now you do the math. $85,000. If you take 80% of $85,000, 80% is going to be $68,000. Now you're in the house for 75,000. Okay? So the appraisers come back and they said, "Oh, the house is only worth 85,000." So now what the bank is saying is that, "Hey, we'll loan you $68,000, but we're not going to loan you any more than that." So now you take the difference of the 75,000 minus the 68,000, and it looks like you would have to bring $7,000 plus closing costs to the table. And I've seen it happen, guys. Believe you me, it's not a pretty sight. So that's why the appraisal is very, very important. And that's why, when we work with Hugo, we have, kind of like a good old boy relationship with some of these appraisers, and everybody's cool, and they know, hey, these are good investors, and we want to make sure these deals go through and everybody's happy. But if you don't work in our group and you try to do some of these deals, you may end up upside down. All right, so Hugo, we talked a little bit about hard money, and we talked a little bit about DSCR. Now let's talk about the low hanging fruit. Okay, low hanging fruit. When I say HELOCs, BLOCs, and PLOCs, let's talk a little bit about that, and let's talk about some of these because I know some of you have gotten HELOCs with Hugo, and you talked about and Hugo is able to get you guys HELOCs if you have some equity in your house. BLOCs, business lines of credit. PLOCs, personal lines of credit. So, Hugo, will you go a little bit into that and talk about the pros and cons of each one of them?
Okay, so yeah, most of our HELOCs that we try to sell are a fixed product, out there. They're really more of a variable rate. But depending on who we go with, I know some of you have gone through the process where we try to make it work with the figure. If it goes all well, then obviously we secure you guys a really good rate with figure. Uh, Nifty is kind of like Figure's cousin. It's more relaxed. I always say it's almost runs the same, except the rate is a little bit higher because of that more relaxed algorithm and the ability to do more things on the back end, right? And always with these products, the more you have the ability to adjust things on the back end instead of make it straight simple, there'll always be kind of a higher rate. Uh, but we also have another option as far as home equity line of credits, and those are your typical where you can choose anywhere from a 10-year line of credit to a 5-year line of credit and like 30, 20, 15-year structures, right? And then there's another one that Korbie is about to close on, which is a kind of business purpose line of credit because that one you can close the entity name. We don't have to move any of the properties, we don't have to deed any of the properties in your name. That one is a DSCR HELOC. It works just like the DSCR loan, where it qualifies off of the rent, right? They're looking at the rent and that the rent is going to cover that draw amount, that payment that you're making on the draw. And on that one, we can go also like figure up to 70%. And I think it's a right around there. It's kind of competitive. It's a little bit lower than Nifty. I think Corby's looking at a 9.75 on a $115,000 line of credit. So it's not too high, but it's not the best, right? And typically they're about 5-year draws, but this one's a 3-year draw period.
Got you. Got you. So, yeah. So, explain a little bit more about the 5-year draw, 3-year draw, 10-year draw. And so, this way they understand that after, if you can, it's a rotating or a revolving line of credit until it gets to the timeline. And at that time, it amortizes into a long-term loan, correct?
Correct, right? And the common question that I get from everybody, whether if it's a 5-year or a 10-year interest only period, is everybody thinks that you can't pay it down or that you can be penalized for paying extra. And that's not true. You can never be penalized for paying extra, right? There are DSCR loans do come with a prepayment penalty, and those are structured to your flexibility, right? They can come anywhere from a 1-year prepayment penalty to 6-year, right? And I typically tell everybody, hey, unless you're going to do something with the property in a year, I wouldn't buy out the prepayment penalty completely. But I was like structure it so hey, you want to do something with it in 3 years, then let's put a 2-year prepay on it, right? Because it affects the rate, right? And ultimately, you want to secure the lowest rate to drive up your cash flow on the property.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. So this way you guys understand that there's these different loan products on the market. Now, Hugo, do you typically deal with business lines of credit at all or any of the personal lines of credit?
I don't have, I've been trying to get our company to negotiate. Looks like Figures starting to get into personal lines of credit, and I'm trying to bring that on. I also know that they're also lending against Bitcoin, and for some reason they gave us the opportunity, but they didn't, and I'm trying to see if the company would revisit. Um, Personal lines of credit, I don't have access to, right? But most everybody typically goes to SoFi for those. I see a lot of people go to SoFi for those.
Got you. Got you for personal lines of credit. Okay. Now, what about let's just say somebody's in the stock market and they have some stock or they have some dividend stocks with certain companies. Do you have some type of a product that you can lend against that stock or no?
So Figure actually does take into consideration stocks and dividends, right?
Hmm.
I think so does Nifty, and a lot of our lenders do, right? It's usually a bank, we can go with the bank statement asset utilization type of program. And that's another alternative document program. And typically on those, some people like to utilize them to buy investment properties because with those, you can get away with a 15% down, not a 20% that's required with DSCR, but it is underwritten with like a DTI. So they're going to look at, you know, what your assets going to look like as if they were liquidated and they depleted, I think, over 6 years or 10 years, depending on the lender. And then with that number, you know, they'll say, you know, Bob makes $50,000 a month. They'll use that to underwrite it with the DTI. So you're still tied to, you know, DTI underwriting guidelines, but it's obviously, you know, it's for people that have money from, you know, residual ends of dividends and bonds and stocks like that.
Got you. Got you. Okay. So for you guys, if you have some money in the stock market, you can actually borrow against it, you know, through Figure. They have some programs that you can work out that way as well. And so, if you guys have questions for Hugo, I want to make sure that we answer them now because we're gonna spend the last few minutes of class talking about the possibility we may be headed out to Tennessee for a visit. And so, I want to kind of talk to you guys about that and tell you what the options are as far as the dates and that kind of stuff. So let's anybody questions for Hugo as far as the different types of loans. We had the short term, which is, of course, the hard money. And then we have the DSCR. The next one, which talked about the low hanging fruit, which is the HELOCs, BLOCs, PLOCs. So, do you guys have any questions about those loans? Anybody? All right. If there's no questions, Hugo, let's uh let's do this then. What I'll do is I'll make sure I keep sending you people. You know, anybody you guys understand that Hugo is our go-to guy. You know, he's the one that, you know, he does he's a broker, and so essentially he has his hands in all these different companies, whether it be Lima One or it be you know, what's
Three,
CB3, any of these ones.
Kiavi.
Yeah. So Hugo can kind of get in with any of these companies. So when it comes time to refinance and we want to refinance out of one of the houses, we can actually use him and we can do that. And for some of you, like for instance, Will, if you want to do some type of a HELOC on one of the other properties, or we want to cash out, if you wanted to say cash out refi, you could cash out refi at one of these companies, and they'd pay you money that way too. So lots of different options we have. But if there's no questions, guys, I will let Hugo. He's been generous enough to take time in his Sunday to come out and spend time with us. So last option or last chance to ask questions for Hugo while he's on this call. Nobody?
Question. I mean, I get a lot of questions, you know, in process, but if you have any questions now, you know, uh, ask, you know, it's sometimes it's a simple thing that, you know, people don't understand and just want to ask, you know.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I know that one thing I will bring up is Nadine had done one of the HELOCs, I believe, with Nifty. And Nifty, just so that everybody knows, when you do the HELOC with Nifty, the way that it works is that they don't initially give you access to the back end of the product. So when you're trying to make payments, you're trying to take money and pay money back and do that kind of thing. You need to have access to the back end of the product. But what they do is they send you some type of a number. They send you like a specific. I can't remember what the access code is or whatever, but they send you that, and then you have to call them back to request access, and then you get the access to the back end, and then you can make payments and do all that stuff. So that is one of the differences between on that one with Nifty versus Figure. Okay. All right, guys. So Hugo, we appreciate the time. You're welcome to stay on, and we're going to talk a little bit about the trip to Memphis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for your time, and I'll always, you know, thank you for your business. And you know, I'm pretty sure your students can also attest that, you know, I try to make everything as smooth as possible so you guys can keep on going for you guys' next property and your next flip.
100%. Yeah, that's what it is. It's always better to spend other people's money. You don't want to spend your own money if you don't need to. So awesome, Hugo. Thank you, buddy.
Yep. Thank you. You guys have a good Sunday.
Okay, you too, bud.
Bye.
All right, guys. So let's talk about the trip to Memphis. All right. So we are planning on a trip to go out to Memphis at the last week of September. Okay, now Alyssa and I are headed out from Thursday the 25th to Monday the 29th. Okay, now not I know everybody doesn't have a property out there yet. Nadine, we're working on one for you even as we speak. But those of you who have properties, sometimes it's nice to be able to go and lay eyes on your properties, be able to go out and see them firsthand. Sometimes we might even be able to meet the tenant, but the idea is just to know where they are and be able to drive by. You don't have to come out on the 25th. The last time we did a trip like this, people were coming out on the 26th, which was Friday, and they were leaving on Sunday. So we always just come out a little early and we leave a little bit late. And at this time during the trip, we will be meeting property managers. So we'll be having probably dinner with Brad. Okay, William. So Will knows Brad. We'll be having probably dinner. Well, it'll not only be Brad, but it'll also be Alex. Alex is the owner of CB Properties. So we'll probably have Brad and Alex. We'll be chatting with them. We'll be having lunch with Craig. Craig is the one that he does the hard money with Avalon. So we'll be meeting them. We'll also be meeting with Frank Melendez. Frank was supposed to be on this call. He sends his apologies. He wasn't able to make the call because he was going to meet with you, Rosana, and Jose, because Frank speaks fluent Spanish and he's always happy when he has Spanish speaking owners. He's always happy to chat with you guys. And Frank was going to talk to you a little bit about the two properties you recently purchased. Okay, but yeah, we'll meet
Yeah,
everybody
but
out
we
there in
speak
Memphis.
English too. So does he speak English?
Oh, he speaks good English too. Yeah, as a
Okay.
matter of fact. Yeah, but I did laugh because Frank is from El Salvador, so he speaks fluent Spanish. I say English is his second language, and when you talk to him, you'll see he speaks a bit of broken English sometimes. And when we talk to him, but he's real good people. Frank's been one of my property managers since 2008 when I bought my first property out in Memphis, Tennessee. So he's really good people, real good guy, great you know honest, very, very honest. And so you'll meet him if you go out there. But so if you guys are going to go, make sure you RSVP with me, talk to me about it, let me know. We're trying to set things up so we can make sure we need to know what type of vehicle we need to get so that this way, if you're all going to come with us, we say, hey, we have a vehicle it's going to seat 9 people. It's going to seat, last year, or when I think in 2023, when we went out, we had to get a bus because we had to get one of those big buses, and it seated like 20 people. And we went out there, and you can actually go onto my YouTube page, and you can go and watch the video, and you can see us. I'm driving this big bus, and I've got all the students in the back, and we're going and looking at different properties. And matter of fact, I think there was a couple of times we took a wrong turn because we were listening to Frank, and Frank was saying, "Oh yeah, turn left here. Oh no, no, wait, no, make a right. I made right." So yeah, but yeah, so you can go back and you can watch that video, and you can see that. Last time we went on a trip to Tennessee. Well, that's not the last time. That was the last time we took a group of students with us. But this time, again, we plan on headed out before we head to Thailand. We're going to Thailand in November. So, we'll be gone a couple weeks, but we'd like to be able to have you guys go and see some of the properties which you purchased before we head out. And so, yeah, so let me know anybody who's wanting to go, who's wanting to attend. Just give me a heads up so we can make sure we make the accommodations. And another thing too is that when we went out last time, we also stayed at a hotel. We stayed at there's a hotel that actually has the ducks. It's what is the name of that hotel? What
The
is it?
Peabody Ducks.
The Peabody. Yeah, the Peabody Hotel. Yeah, Peabody Hotel it has ducks that they take the ducks at 11 o'clock. They march them to the pond, and then they march them back up at 5 p.m. They march them back up to the penthouse. So these are ducks that stay in the penthouse. So it's very interesting that if you if we decide to stay out there. But we'll see. We probably won't stay at the Peabody this time. We'll probably stay somewhere else. But this way, you guys have an idea. But
So
any
I have a
questions?
question.
Yes.
So you guys are driving, right?
Are you kidding? You know how far it is to Memphis? We don't. We're not driving out there. We'll be driving when we get into Memphis, but we're not going to be
Oh, at
driving
the.
out to Memphis.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah, no, that'd be crazy to try to drive to. I mean, some people might. I mean, I know people who have driven further, but no, we fly. We'll fly out to Memphis, and then when we get out there, we usually, we'll pick up something, a rental vehicle that's going to be big enough for all of us to fit in, and we can drive around and get there.
What day
what
is
was
that, Corbett? Oh,
the dates again? Sorry.
Okay, the dates are going to be September the 25th through the 29th. Thursday, the 25th is a Thursday, okay? Now, like I said before, in the past, Alyssa and I just go out early. We like to acclimate ourselves to this, to everything. And so we usually go out on the 25th because it's like a travel day. And then we spend the 26th, the 27th, and the 28th going to look at properties. And so if you come out on the 26th, that would be fine too. Just try to get an early flight because by the time we get in with Frank, usually it's around 12 noon, 1 o'clock when we start actually starting to go look at properties. And, if we have lunch with Craig and if we have lunch with those guys, Alex and Brad, we want to make sure you have time to go and meet all these guys. Yeah, so you could do the 26th to the 28th as well. So it doesn't have to be the 25th to 29th, but that's when we're going. We're headed out from the 25th to 29th. It's the last weekend of September.
okay. Corbie, I've got a couple other questions too when
Sure.
you're ready. Um, One question I had was like on the landscaping out there on these properties, does it matter much on these homes if the front yard isn't landscaped? I mean,
Well, it goes with curb appeal. So if you do have a landscape property, it's likely going to sell faster and it's probably going to rent faster. So if you have at least a decent landscaping, it'll be good. It's actually good. We want that. There's a lot of nice green grassy yards in Memphis, and if you have the houses properly landscaped and the lawn's been mowed, then yeah, it'll likely rent a lot faster and it'll likely sell faster if you were trying to sell it. But as far as adding value to the house, no, it's not going to add any value. Adding the value to the house, the value adds are going to be when we go in there and we tear off a roof and put a new roof, or when we tear out some carpet and put hardwood floors. That's where we're adding the value.
okay, yeah, because like on the Foxcroft property, right, it doesn't have any front yard, so to speak. I mean, it's landscaped. So I was just wondering about that up
Yeah,
the front or the back.
yeah.
So
Well,
I'll talk to you
yeah,
about that maybe more later.
yeah, yeah, we'll look at it and see because that's one of the things that we could always add if we needed to. We can always say, hey, but as far as the curb appeal to the property, if they got looks nice on the outside and they've gone through and taken any kind of rotten wood and they've got it cleaned up real nice, it should have no problem at all renting.
Okay, okay. And then one other quick question I had was, I was just curious about the market saturation there. At what point, I mean, do you have an idea like when would the market get too saturated for people coming in and buying rental properties?
You're
Given
talking about in Tennessee,
yeah,
Memphis? No,
yeah,
no, there's
Memphis.
that place is never too saturated. And the reason why the way you want to look at it is that the reason why I've been investing in there since 2008, and I still find good properties. I still buy deals, do deals all the time. And the reason why it doesn't get saturated is because it's more of a rental market.
Okay,
When you find that a rental market, when 60% of the people that live in a population rent and they don't necessarily buy, then you know that hey, you're always going to have some a valuable property, and you're always going to be able to rent it. Now some of the places there are some places which have become saturated, like for instance Vegas. Back in 2008 when I started buying properties, Vegas was actually a really good place. You could actually find a decent deal and you could rent. That place did get saturated and it got saturated quick. And I would say it got saturated because a lot of people don't rent in Vegas. And when people buy homes in Vegas and people were buying homes and buying homes and buying homes, what you found was that they started trying to come up with homeowners associations, and they were trying to prevent people. They were saying, hey, we don't want we don't want people having an Airbnb here. We don't want this and we don't want that. And so that's why it's not necessarily there's certain markets which aren't good rental markets, but Tennessee, Memphis is a great rental market, and another great rental market is Arkansas, which is the neighboring city. Mississippi is also good too. So that's something which we'll be introducing to you guys down the line as we get more and more contacts in these places. We can start to offer you more of those places as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like there's so many houses out there.
Oh, it's not sad. We
Yeah.
personally own like 70 houses. That I mean that's just us. And so just us and between our students and we own hundreds of houses out there. So
Okay.
so it's definitely not, it's funny because we'll go down the street, if you guys come out with us, you'll see that we'll go down the street, like let's say for example, a street named Sharp, and you'll see like it's like, oh, we own 5 houses on this street. And then, oh, Gerald owns 2 houses. Oh, Kira owns another house, and it's funny because between collectively we own like 10 houses on the street, and that's why you'll start noticing that because when you find really good areas like for instance Rhodes is one of the streets we own like 6 houses on Rhodes, and it's a
Okay.
really good street. Never ever the house is vacant. We never have any issues. Those are the best houses to get. If you can get that, you snatch it up right away.
Yeah, because I was just curious too, like how many people out there are renting, right? And why they're not buying,
Right. Yeah,
right?
it's funny. It's kind of strange, and I think part of the reason is because FedEx is the hub out there, and so since FedEx is the hub out there in Tennessee, there's a lot of people that are kind of going in and out, and then also that's where the children's hospital is. So they fly a lot of these nurses in. A lot of travel nurses
Okay.
come in, and that's why they'll stay. They do a lot of Airbnb out there, so that's what it's kind of interesting about Tennessee. The population is not, it's not one that they just buy a bunch of houses and they stay. They kind of they rent. It's a really big rental market there.
Okay. Okay, cool. Thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions, guys? Okay, if there's not any other questions, it's a bit of a short call this week. Randy's still out of town. He's on his cruise. And we will be, of course, the next time we do our class, we'll have Randy joining in and he'll be talking a little bit about, paying off interest and the cost of interest and that type of thing. But this week, I wanted to make sure we got Hugo back on because the last time we had Hugo on, we didn't actually have the call recorded. This call is recorded, so if you'd like to request a copy of it, just ask me because I put them all on YouTube. I just put them on a private setting, so I can just or I put them not private, but I usually put them on. It's not advertised, so this way, when I send you the link, you can always watch it, no problem. But if there's no other questions,
Korbie, I just had a
yes,
quick other one quickly. After this call, can I talk to you briefly on the
sure,
phone? Do you have time?
you sure can. Yep. Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll get on and we'll chat here. We'll chat. I'll give you a call in a few minutes. Will.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Thanks.
All right, you're welcome, guys. Anybody else?
Yeah,
Questions?
Korbie, so
Yes.
when can we meet with Frank? Because we had a few questions with
Property
the
management.
homes and yeah, the beginning of the month and how does
Yes,
the
yes, yes. I'll set up a call with you guys and Frank either for Monday or Tuesday. And so
okay.
this way, yeah, Frank was supposed to be on this call, but he had at the last minute he had to cancel. So I'll set it up for Monday or Tuesday. And so this way you guys can meet with him and you can discuss, and I'll also set up an email so that I'll give you his email address and contact information, telephone number, and I'll also put your information and contact and telephone number so that this way you guys can actually talk freely and make sure that you can discuss anything about the properties.
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome.
Thank
All
you,
right, guys.
Korbie. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, Rosanna. All
All
right.
right.
All right, have a
All right,
nice
you guys have a
weekend.
good rest of
Thanks.
the day, good rest of the Sunday. Talk to you
Okay,
guys soon.
bye-bye.
Too. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks for
Okay.
everything.
All
We'll
right,
talk
you're
later.
welcome. All right.
Bye-bye.
Hasta luego.